Hi, everybody. I'm Dave,
And I'm John.
and this is Coffee and Capes, our podcast about two of our favorite things drinking coffee and talking about geek culture.
Yes, this is true, as always.
As always. So today we're talking about movies. But before we get to that, we have a few things we like to run down. One, thanks for finding us. We're so glad to have you be part of our little podcast family here. The podcast that also is a little small business that we have going as well. So let's connect you in all of the ways.
Yes. So if you are watching us, you found us on the YouTube, or you may have been looking at TikTok or Instagram, or because we've been posting clips from past episodes on TikTok and on Instagram. So obviously we're on YouTube. We're on Instagram at coffee_the letter N_capes. Same with Twitter and TikTok. And then on Facebook, we're just Coffee and Capes.
Don't worry, there's almost no dancing from us on TikTok.
There is no dancing. Yeah, none at all. And then, of course, the website, coffeeandcapes.com. That's the word coffee, the letter N, the word capes.com. That's where you can find all of our heroically great coffee, like this bag of Respawn. Respawn is our coffee of the day today. And this one's got the old label on it. The new label is on everything else. But this is a fair trade medium roast single origin with notes of brown sugar, cashew, milk chocolate, and orange. And no matter how many lives you've used up, Respawn brings you back better than ever. All of our coffee is very thoughtfully sourced.
Yeah.
It is important to us that our coffee comes from farms that practice sustainable farming practices, that pay their employees a living wage. So our coffee is extremely thoughtfully sourced and then expertly roasted to bring out just some amazing flavor profiles. And Respawn is, I think I've mentioned this before, Rachel's favorite. She can literally drink this like all day long. It is super smooth and pleasing, and goes well with Lady Bird Provision coffee bombs.
Yeah, it's really good. It's what I'm drinking this morning as well. And just a little bonus. My apologies if I said this previous episode. I don't remember, but a guy we know, Rudy, who ordered some, he literally said Respawn was one of the ones he had to order because of our description nailed him to a T. That he's our age, but he still is a gamer, and he finds himself sometimes at 2 a.m. You've hit Respawn for the 12th time or whatever, and you just can't stop. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And Respawn, that one was made for gamers.
Yep.
Right, as old gamers. I mean, I remember playing way back in the day Atari with the stick. Right, and then it was Nintendo, like the first Nintendos, and then PlayStations came out, and Xbox. And no matter how much I beg and plead, I have not been allowed to buy a new gaming system.
I was just told by our teenage son that we need a new one, that we need to upgrade that the PS4 is not cutting it anymore. Like, okay, well, we'll see. I don't know. I was Atari, of course, was the original for me, and then I went Sega. What was it called? Sega Genesis.
Sega Genesis.
Yeah, that was my college days.
Was it
system? Yep.
Yeah. Sega Genesis was good. You know what? I still love when I can find them as arcades, with
for sure,
old school stand-up video games. We're gonna have to do an episode on video games from back in the day.
Yeah,
we need to do that. Yeah.
Intern, put that on the list.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
We should get an intern.
We should get an intern.
We absolutely should get an intern. If you're interested in interning with us, contact us at supers@coffeeandcapes.com. I do want to say thank you to everybody that's left and sent us reviews. A lot of people have sent us reviews that we're kind of putting up in social about their experience with us. So thanks everybody for doing so. We really appreciate it. It does mean the world to us, and it has a significant impact you know, it helps us to look like we're a trusted and thoughtful brand, which is what we try to be.
Yep.
So thanks everybody for that. Um, yeah.
So along those lines, we have a little segment we like to call fan fiction, where we highlight some interaction we've had with some fans. So you
Yeah,
got for us for fan
absolutely.
fiction.
Specifically, this one comes from Instagram and comes from at Daily Beard. Uh, Daily Bear. No, Daily Beard Adventure. I thought I had it right the first time, and then I looked at it for a half second. I was like, wait a second. Have I been saying this wrong the whole time? No, Daily Beard Adventure. So we posted a clip from episode 26, which was Good to Be Bad, available on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, all those places, where we just kind of covered our favorite bad guys in the universe. And
Yeah.
this one, Dave was kind of talking about the Joker, but what led into it was how much the Legion of Doom headquarters seemed to be inspired by Darth Vader. I put forward that maybe it had a little Black Manta feel to it, which it does, but
Does.
Daily Beard Adventures in most versions I've seen always reminded me more of Vader, and I would agree with that. Right? It really does look like directly pulled from his helmet.
Right.
It
Which
makes you
how
think
do they
that
get away with that?
if the Legion of Doom just kept coming out of the water, it would just roll out and be Darth Vader.
Which would be awesome. If they have that ability and they haven't done it, well, that's why they keep losing.
Yeah, that's right. They're like, what does this button do? Don't touch that button.
Yeah.
I don't know what it does. But it says super awesome. Don't touch the super awesome button. Touch that one over there. It says we lose. Yeah, but that's how it works.
Exactly. Excellent. Well, Daily Beard Adventures, thank you for your wise comment and for agreeing with me. Clearly, you are a gentleman and a scholar.
Yes, clearly.
Unless you're not a gentleman, I don't want to make assumptions about gender there.
Yeah,
But
I don't know. Who knows?
thank you for your comment. We appreciate you.
I assume that is secretly Kevin Costner.
Of course it is.
Yeah. Hey, the new Yellowstone season comes out next month.
Oh,
So
all right.
I'm very excited about that.
Is this the final one? I feel like they're kind of
I don't know.
they're
I've
kind of
heard
running
rumors that Kevin Costner is leaving Yellowstone to do other things, and that they're going to do a spin-off series and all kinds of stuff. But
okay.
yeah, who knows? It's a great
Feel-
show, though.
Yeah, it is. It's very entertaining. I feel like it's about reached the time where it needs to say, let's stop before any sharks
Overture.
appear in the prairie and they need to jump them.
Yeah. Oh, happy days.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. What are we talking about today?
Well, for our visual medium friends, you can see that we are going to talk about scary movies, our favorite scary movies.
Yeah.
It
we thought
is,
about doing
in case you didn't know, like it is, at least while we're recording this, basically late October. It's October 21st, the day as we record this. So whenever you're listening to it, I can't tell you, but as we record it, we're rounding the corner. We're like 3/4 of the way through October, and Halloween is on our mind. And last time rather, we did our favorite spooky comics.
Yeah.
Thought today we'd do our favorite spooky movies.
Yeah. And we talked about doing our She-Hulk review. Like, I just literally 2 days ago chatted that up with AJ and Heath over at Genre Geeks. So shout out to those guys. Thanks guys for having us on.
Thanks, Genre Geeks. You guys rock.
Yeah, we had a great time. Like, super nice guys, lots of fun. So we thought, everybody else is talking about She-Hulk. Some people are talking about Halloween Ends. Black Adam seems to be dominating everything right now in terms of conversation, but it is Halloween.
It is
And
Halloween.
nothing says Halloween better than scary movies, right? And Halloween Ends came out recently. I watched that one. We're not going to review that one right now, but we're going to talk movies that, scared the bejesus out of us and turned into things that we just absolutely loved, right? Over time. And Dave, why don't you kick us off with explaining what you have behind you?
Yeah, my first and foremost for me on this category has to be Nightmare on Elm Street
Hmm.
and the original. So this hit, this hit my sweet spot. This came out in the I'd have to look it up. This came out in the mid 80s. So when I was mid to late 80s, when I was in high school. Um, and oh my gosh, did we love it? Like my friends and I, we thought it was tremendous. And I was like, I've never been a huge like scary movie person. Like that's not my first or preferred genre of movie, but some, as we're going to get into here, there are some that just cross that barrier and do well, and this was definitely one of them. I mean, I just think the setup of this is brilliant because the setup itself is terrifying, right?
Yeah.
That there is the Freddy Krueger is coming to get you in your sleep.
Hmm.
And we all know, try as we might, at some point, no matter how much coffee we drink,
Hmm.
at some point we're going to go to sleep. We're
Yeah.
going to fall asleep, and that means we're vulnerable. And Freddy and those knives, which, probably I wonder if, maybe a piece of the appeal is there's sort of a little Wolverine-esque aspect
Right. Yeah.
to his bicycle or motorcycle glove with the knives on it.
Hmm.
But just everything they do with that throughout the movies is so clever and so good. Well, maybe not clever, but it's really good. It's entertaining. Um, I really like it. It makes for great Halloween costumes. Like it's an easy, like
Hmm.
adaptable Halloween costume. And I can't say that I definitely well, I will say I have not seen every single Nightmare on Elm Street because there's probably like 27 of them now. But I first certainly saw the first like four or whatever.
Right.
That came out back in the day. Uh and it's a story with a decent backstory. Like, what made Freddy like this? Well, people were terrible to him, and so this is like his response
In all fairness,
to
they were
trauma.
terrible to him because he was a child killer.
Oh, is that a bad thing? Oh, right. Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
I guess maybe he deserved it.
He wasn't like this sweet innocent face that
Right. Yeah.
was like, oh gosh, guys, you're being mean to me, so I'm gonna come back and haunt you. No, he was killing children, and everybody like burned him to death. But yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street. It's funny if you go back and look at it. Like Johnny Depp was in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Correct. Yeah.
I think one of the most terrifying moments of that is like we suck down into the bed and it just
Yes.
spews blood
Yes.
everywhere,
For
like
sure.
coating the entire inside of the room.
Yep.
That was pretty epic. Nightmare on Elm Street 2 scared me even more than 1 did because of the whole like I'll never forget how he peels his own skin back and his brain is exposed and it just like freaked me out. Um yeah, it was like it was great. I mean, and Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger, I know they tried to relaunch it and they tried to reboot it. And I can't remember the actor's name. He was also in Watchmen. Uh, but they tried to reboot it, and you just can't replace Robert Englund.
No, I agree. Yeah.
Like,
He's
the guy is
he's
iconically
iconic for
tied,
sure. Yeah.
yeah, tied to that role. And 3 was 3 the Dream Warriors one
Oh,
that
dude, I don't honestly,
everybody
I don't
had.
even know. But by
Yeah.
like three, and for sure by four, there's a lot more humor. Like Freddy's a lot got some one-liners, and there's a lot more like it's sort of it's not slapstick, but it's what's the word I'm looking for?
It's definitely funnier.
Yeah,
It's not as dark. I
right,
mean, it's still pretty dark, but it's
right.
not the same level. Like
Yeah,
1 and 2 were just terrifying.
correct. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
3 got a little different. By the time we got to 4, there was definitely some hokey feelings
yeah,
to it.
yeah.
Um, and which is fine. Like that's fine. You can't. Not every scary movie is gonna be franchise, I guess. As you go on in a franchise, like things can get a little sideways as people run out of ideas and start throwing darts at the dartboard and going, oh yeah, so we're gonna do a giant horse and thunk. and Freddy's gonna ride it backwards with a can of Old Spice. All right,
Yeah.
there we go. That's the next scary movie. But yeah, it's a great, and that movie series scared me enough, the first two, that there were nights when it got hot in my bedroom as a kid
Yeah.
that I laid there and was like, God, I know it's not real, but
But yeah.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Good choice, Dave. Good
Thank you.
job kicking us off with the Nightmare on Elm Street.
All right, John. I think we can, those of us that can see what your background, probably have a pretty good idea where you're going first.
Yeah, so to me, this was the first, for me, this was the first horror movie that I watched, like,
Okay.
of my own accord. Friday the
For
13th.
those that can't, okay, I was gonna say, for those that can't
Right.
see,
Yeah, I got
for,
it. Don't
for an
worry. I'm
audio
getting there. I'm
medium.
getting there, buddy.
All
Just
right, all right.
relax. Relax. There's build up. I got my process. Um, and I can remember like my stepdad at the time rented it for us, like laid on the floor, like in sleeping bags, watching Friday the 13th. And it was the first like really scary movie that I watched, that I wanted to see. And man, I will tell you what, like it kicked off a long-standing love affair with Jason Voorhees.
Okay.
Just the iconic hockey mask, the big coveralls, just walking through the forest, not running, right?
Right. Yeah.
Not speeding after people, not porting through, not teleporting or anything like that, but literally Camp Crystal Lake, people sprinting through the woods to get away from him. Looking back, he's just trotting along, this
Yeah.
big, giant, scary guy. And then they stop, and without fail, like they stop, kind of back into something, turn around. Oh my God, it's Jason Voorhees. And then he sticks him to a tree with a machete,
Yeah.
right? Or some kind of like sharp object
Yeah.
every single time. And it taught us that teenage sex
Is
will
deadly.
be rewarded with
Yes. Yeah.
some kind of horrific end,
Yeah.
right?
Why is that? Why is there such a connection between horror movies and like morality plays?
Oh, I don't know, and I don't even care.
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
Fair enough. All right.
there's no reason, right, for horror movies to have like some deep alternate meaning. It's just fun. Like, what's going to happen when Billy and Susie wander off into the woods to crawl into their tent giggling, right? Or going skinny dipping together,
Right.
that at
Right.
some point, right, she's
Jason's
going to
gonna
be
find
like,
him.
Billy, quit screwing around. You're really freaking me out,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You're really freaking me out. And all of a sudden,
So,
wham, through the
yep.
tent comes Billy's body, like
Right.
mangled. And she's like, ah, takes off
Right.
sprinting,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then we learn, no matter how fast you run in a straight line, Jason Voorhees can catch you,
Yeah. Right. Yes.
right? And
Yes. No
the
matter how
other
slowly
thing,
he walks, he is always faster than you.
right? This is one of those fun things. I don't know if a lot of people know from watching the first one. If you haven't watched the original, Kevin Bacon's in the original.
That's
He gets
bananas. You sure it's not
speared.
Kevin Costner?
Yeah, I'm sure. As
Okay.
much as I'd like it to be. He is like speared through a bed. He is stuck to the bed. There's, and then we get the endless number of like sequels. I mean,
Sequels.
there's been
Yeah.
a ton. You
Yeah.
had Jason in Manhattan. You had
Jason in
Jason in
space.
Space, which
What?
is terrible. It's just terrible. It was like, seriously, as much as I love Jason Voorhees, I watched that one and I was like, this is crap.
Yeah.
Like complete and unadulterated crap. And then they redid it, right? They rebooted it as they like to do. They've rebooted again, like we talked about Nightmare on Elm Street. And I'll have to say, like the Friday the 13th reboot, pretty good, right?
Okay.
I mean, you don't have to really try and reinvent the wheel there. You just throw a bunch of campers in the middle of the woods and a
Right.
giant guy
And a
with the
dude with a
hockey mask
right, and a machete, and you're
and a
good.
machete, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're good. Fake
Yeah.
blood splays everywhere, screaming, bikini, topless people,
Yeah.
whatever, what have you. But I love this franchise. He is hands down like my favorite. And Rachel and I just watched Freddy versus Jason. Um, if you haven't seen that movie, go watch it. it's hilarious in like the level of awfulness that it
Okay.
has, right?
Yeah.
Is but at the same time, it's one of those like nerdy like things of you get to see these two iconic like horror movie icons square off at some point. But then it does the like BS like crap out ending of like, oh, Freddy's still Freddy and
They're
Jason's
all
still
still just
Jason, and
alive.
nobody
Yeah.
really
Right.
won. Nobody's
Yeah.
really better
Right.
than the other one. And it's like,
Right. Right.
you guys suck.
Yeah.
Like, I want a definitive ending, not your meh.
Yeah. You're never gonna get that.
No, it's not. So yeah, Friday the 13th. I love Friday the 13th. Dave, what else you got in your creepy arsenal there?
So I don't know that I love this movie, but I think still for
Excuse me.
me, the the movie that creeps me out the most
Mm-hmm.
to this day is still The Exorcist.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely iconic, right? Um,
It
I
just
mean,
gives me
back
the willies, man. I like watching that movie. Just something about the Linda Blair, the head going around,
yeah,
and
she's very flexible.
the creepy right, and the creepy voice, and the whole like I don't know. It hits the sweet spot for me for like just completely wigging me out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So I think for me, I think The Exorcist is good. I don't think it's as good as like a lot of people give it credit for. But that being said, right, Linda Blair in that role is definitely iconic
Hmm.
in terms of, you know, her portrayal as like the possessed
Yeah.
little girl and everything else. And for the time, right? And this is where I think for me it comes in is that by the time I got to The Exorcist, I had blown through so many other horror movies,
Okay. Yeah.
right? And so by the time I got to The Exorcist, I was like, the special effects are kind of iffy. Like she's essentially vomiting pea soup everywhere. It's
Still gross though.
oh yeah, I mean, well, yeah. But for
Yeah.
me, it
Yeah. No, I
wasn't
hear you.
as impactful.
Yeah. So that one, I got to be in the right mood to even consider watching that because it I don't know it
Do you
tickles my
think that
it
there's,
creeps me
and
out.
I'm gonna ask a very random question. Do you think because of what you do for your professional life that it has a little bit more?
I think that's a specific question, not a random one.
Yeah, I guess.
I, maybe, maybe. I mean, I don't look. I've known people over my career that think that and this is a deep dive that nobody's gonna know, but that Frank Peretti novels are not novels, but are like describing actual reality. It's books about how everybody like demons are all over the place and like you gotta pray away or something. Like it's weird. Um, I I don't think that's a thing. I've met people in actual life that go through life thinking that. So maybe there's a connection there. Like, and the whole like the power of Christ compels you thing is iconic as well.
Right. Yeah.
Um but maybe because it's the Catholic Church and I'm not Catholic, that
Right.
maybe
Yeah.
there's
Sure.
not that same sort of
And
connection.
that was
But
gonna
the
be
idea,
my follow up.
yeah,
Right.
but
Is
the
like,
idea there, I guess the idea that there are things that exist in the universe that we can't explain.
mhm.
Maybe that's a piece that connects for me.
Which conveniently brings us to my next movie on
Okay.
the list, Alien.
Oh, yes.
Right? You want to
Oh,
talk about things in the universe you can't explain.
yeah.
Um, Alien and Aliens 2, right? And there's been a whole bunch of Aliens movies, as we all know. The
Alien
very
and then
first Alien,
aliens, right?
right? Alien and then Aliens, which is
Yeah.
Alien 2, basically.
Yeah.
The first one was much more like horror movie like, right?
Yes.
You had
Right.
this
Right.
thing that like creeped through and it exploded from the guy's chest
Yep.
after it laid an egg inside of him that gestated and then it ran across. and grew into the much bigger one.
Yeah.
Horrifying.
Yes, very much so.
Like horrifying. Like you couldn't look at like a pod on something as that, like without being like, ooh, something gonna pop out of there. Like planters that had that shape. You're like, oh, that's so creepy. Um, and it was, you think about space exploration, and I love the idea of space exploration and an
Sure.
infinite universe with infinite life possibilities that exist out there. And when you take that and really extrapolate that thought process, the idea that something lives like that alien is out there in the universe somewhere,
Yeah.
totally possible. Totally possible. And so it had a significant impact, right, on me. And then I saw Aliens, the
Hmm.
James Cameron like follow-up, and
Right.
man, like not as much horror movie to that one, more sci-fi, like,
Yes. Right. I
but
agree. Yeah.
epic. Oh, so epic. I love that movie. I can watch that movie over and over and over and over again, no matter which version. And some of the extended versions are long. Um,
Okay.
but
Yeah, that was
and
really good. Yeah, I remember being, I want to say it was at like Universal Studios or something as a kid, some kind of place where we go through, not amusement park, but amusement park esque, and there was an alien display, and you're like sort of in the midst of the movie, and like the alien is moving around, like the effects are that it's moving around in the room with you, and I
right,
just I remember I don't think I've ever wanted to be out of a room more than I wanted to be out of that room that time. Like it was really, really
that's fair.
creepy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. So Alien, yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Nice. All right. Next, I'm gonna go again. So this is the only other movie that comes close to creeping me out like Exorcist did, and that is The Ring.
Ooh, The Ring's a good one.
Yeah, with the girl with the hair that crawls out of the TV and the
TV.
like
Oh,
it's just again, I just got a shiver just now thinking about it. Like
yeah.
that movie creeps me out. And no joke, I watched that movie like in the middle of the day, like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the first time I saw it, and it completely wigged me out. And no lie, like as the movie ended and as the credits roll, my phone rang and I was like completely wigged out by
That's
that.
awesome.
Yeah.
That
So,
is
I
that's
think that's a
fantastic.
piece of my memory of watching that movie, maybe that maybe if that hadn't happened, it wouldn't be quite so up there. But yeah, there's just something about the girl coming out of the well and out of the TV screen that
Oh yeah.
just horrifying.
Well, and the original Japanese version is phenomenal.
I've
Um,
heard. I've not seen
yeah,
that, but yeah,
it's
I've heard
really
that.
good. But I think that kicked off for a lot of video games, right? You saw a lot of video game creators putting this girl in a corner whose head is hanging down with like her hair hiding
Yeah.
her face, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden is like moving in this weird, creepy, unnatural
Yeah.
way,
Oh,
or
yes, that's a piece of it too. The way that yeah.
yeah, like contorts in ways that
Right,
you're
right,
like,
right,
that is
right.
not right. That
Yeah.
is not right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one. And yeah, I think that the way that they portrayed that little girl coming out of everything really spawned a lot of what you'll see in like video games and other movies when it comes to like putting something in there. It definitely had an influence over a lot.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like if the Matrix gave us bullet time, right? With the
Yes.
special effects, feels like, and I can't say for sure that it started with The Ring, but
Yeah, I
it
don't
started
know.
for
Yeah.
me. It did,
Yeah.
like that. Just what you're talking about, that creepy contorting kind of, just like as
Yes.
bones are crunching and crimping and moving in different ways, and like we saw it
Super gross.
in Stranger Things, in the last
Yep.
season of
Yep.
Stranger Things. Like
Hmm. Yeah.
it's so still. When did Ring come out? Like early 2000s. So
Did it? I don't know.
close to
Somewhere in there.
15 to 20 years later, we're still seeing
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
sort of
The influence.
effect still
Yeah.
being used.
Yeah. Yeah. I agreed. Wow. Yeah. I hadn't thought about that movie in a while either, like at all.
Yeah.
Um, it's like,
All right. What's next for you, John?
That one was creepy. So talking about creepy and things that had like a significant impact and actually spawned like an entire genre of like an entire subset of the horror movie genre, the Blair Witch Project.
Mm,
When the Blair Witch Project first came out, um, and nobody really knew about it, right? It was this under the radar kind of film that people weren't um people weren't sure, right, what it was. So there was a lot of confusion,
right.
right? What is
Yeah.
this? And it
Yeah.
and it was the first ever like found footage
Right.
style movie, and they made everybody be really quiet about it. Like the studio was like very hush hush about this, and it was really portrayed as we found this
Just
footage.
right. Yeah. They
And I
really
remember,
played it up, and it was like the first film with like an internet presence
yeah,
that spread a word of
absolutely,
mouth that
yeah.
way.
And people were looking at it, and I remember going with a group of friends. Like we all went, and we're all adults at this point, and we probably had a few beers before we went to the movie. And we're all sitting in a row. There's not really a lot of people in there because this movie really kind of took a while to gain traction and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. And it's summertime, and so we're all laughing, having a great time. And we watched that movie, and it scared the shit out of everybody that I was with. And we had talked about going camping.
Oh wow.
And everybody's like, I'm
Yeah.
not going
We're
camping.
not
I
going
don't want to
camping
go
now.
camping now.
No
I'm not
way.
going in the woods. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Like, are you serious? Like, people were freaking out. And
Yeah.
you never forget like that iconic moment of like the guy screaming in the woods, Josh, Josh,
Yeah.
right? And they
Yeah.
keep like they're going around in circles and everybody's like losing their mind. It was literally terrifying.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and then the last scene is like they're going through the house and they find, there's a guy standing in the corner, and all of a sudden you just hear and the camera drops, and that was it. And you're
Yeah.
like,
What just
what
happened?
happened?
Yeah.
What just happened? Like nobody
That can't
survived.
be it. That can't be the end.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we got a sequel, which there should have never been.
Oh
It should
gosh.
have never been a
I
sequel.
never
That was
saw it, but
clearly a
yeah.
money grab.
No.
But it literally spawned so many movies after
Yep.
that, like Paranormal Activity,
Right. All the
right?
found
Along
footage
the lines
thing
of
where
like
the
your Exorcist thing. The
yeah.
first Paranormal Activity was really good and in that same vein, not as impactful though as Blair Witch, because that was the first one we saw like that, right? The impact of those like found footage style horror movies has definitely declined a bit
I
since
think
Blair
so.
Witch came out, because
Yeah.
now we all know, right? Now we're all like, yeah, okay,
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
whatever.
But that very first
But
one, we didn't
whew,
it seems ridiculous to say, but we didn't know. We didn't know it
right,
wasn't
we
actual found
we
footage.
had no idea. And it became this thing. So I can remember being at a party in the woods with a bunch of friends, and all of a sudden you hear somebody off in the distance
No.
being funny, yelling,
Uh-huh.
Josh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Josh. And you're just like, everybody's sitting there laughing, and because we all know what's going on, but you could still feel
What?
like hair standing up on your arm, and you're like, all right, it's funny, but let's all go back to the rest of the group.
Yeah.
um so yeah, Blair Witch Project is terrifying, absolutely terrifying. What do you got next, Dave? Where are we going from here in our journey of terror?
So I don't know if these count because they're not they're spooky-esque,
Okay.
but stuff like Gremlins, I
Yeah,
loved. It's probably not really horror. Um
I mean,
it has an element of it, but
yeah, it's got an element of it, right? But I wouldn't put it in the same
it's
category
not
as
in
like
this it's
Nightmare on
not
Elm
right,
Street or
right.
anything like
Yeah.
that. It
It's
had,
more funny than it is.
yeah, it was very tongue-in-cheekish.
Yeah,
um
right.
and definitely a classic.
Yeah. All right. Here, I'll go. How about World War Z?
Oh yeah.
Fast Zombies.
Yeah, Fast Zombies. Well, we got
And
the
fast zombies
first.
that are working together. I know, yeah, we got that first in what, 28 days?
No, first time we got Fast Zombies was Dawn of the Dead remake.
Okay.
Yeah. the Dawn of the Dead remake, we got the first like fast zombies. But
World War Z, I liked. It's not, again, it's not like exactly horror. It's maybe more horror adjacent, but
did you ever read
still
the
just
book?
yes. Yeah.
So good.
Uh-huh.
So good.
Right.
And
But just all the zombies, like not just fast, but fast and working together.
mm, yeah, to an extent, right? To an
Yeah.
extent working together. But like when they go after that wall in
Yeah.
Jerusalem
Yes.
and just start climbing up
Uh-huh.
over each other and then come
Exactly.
over the
Yep.
wall,
That's
you're
the
like,
one that I'm thinking. That's the part I really am
yeah,
thinking of. Yeah.
they're for me. So World War Z was interesting because I love the book so much.
Yeah.
Love that book. Um, and I wanted to see the book brought to
And
screen,
right.
and
And
it was
that's
really
not what
like
it,
different.
yes, very much.
But once I got over how different it was, I really appreciated it.
Yeah.
And when we talk about zombie movies, and there's been so many, I love zombie movies. I think they're a lot of fun. I mean, The Walking Dead is a great TV show ongoing. I got through a couple of seasons of it. I read the graphic novel for
Okay.
Walking Dead when it first came out. I still have it. Um, but when we're talking about zombie movies, I got to go back to the remake of Dawn of the Dead
Okay.
because that introduced us to the first like sprinting zombie and how terrifying
That
the
idea is,
idea of like,
yeah.
because before you're just excuse me,
Yeah.
you're just walking through like fields of zombies or and they have to kind of like somehow sneak up on you to really get you. And so the idea that like zombie outbreak could end the world didn't feel super realistic, right? When you go back and look at like Night of the Living Dead, since like
Yeah.
they're all like very slow moving, and I feel like you just run through and like axe chop everybody in the head or do whatever, right? But when we got fast zombies, like zombies that suddenly like turn and go from
Uh-huh.
moving slow to like
The
dead sprint
sprint. Yes.
coming after you
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
and
That's
in
that's
mass,
horrifying. Terrifying. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like willing
Because what
to
are you gonna
like
do? You can't outrun
like
them.
coming
Eventually
through
you're
like
going to tire.
windows, doors, like
Right.
beating their head against
Yeah.
the like
Yeah.
glass to try and get to you. And
Right.
when they finally get in, like every zombie is just pushing forward to get to that person.
Yeah.
Oh man. Like that's end of the world style stuff,
For sure.
right? And that ratchets up the horror and terror level for me
Yeah. I
because
agree.
like what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do? And it only takes one person to get bit and nobody realizes it. And then all of a sudden they're like flying through. And it goes to, I know we talked about creepy comic books, but like the idea of deceased, right? I know
Yeah.
Marvel Zombies does it too. Marvel Zombies and Deceased, like what happens when like your, heroes suddenly get turned. Deceased makes it more interesting because like the Flash being turned,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like how
Well,
fast,
how do you stop that?
right? Like he spreads it insanely fast. And the only way to stop him was to send Superman after him, and then Superman gets infected. Like,
Yeah.
and then like
Yeah.
what happens then? Like now you
Right.
got like undead Superman. Oh, right. But yeah, Dawn of the Dead, World War Z. There's so many more. I love modern era zombie movies specifically for that like fast moving, like intelligent zombie.
Yep.
Um, Zombieland was a hilarious take on zombie movies, right?
Sure.
I didn't find it scary at all, but man, was it funny.
All right. I got one more that I want to bring up.
What do
And
you got?
I don't actually love this movie, but but I respect it because it's so very well done
Okay.
and completely horrifying. And that's Hereditary.
Ooh, yeah. That was a well done movie. I don't know, like it. Yeah. What was your? Tell me your take on that one.
Um that it's I have no idea what's happening the entire time. I'm like confused. Like kids are involved, and that's always creepy. Uh the I mean, spoiler alert, the girl gets decapitated for God's sake. Like, what in the heck is going on? And what's her name? Is it Tony Collette? Who just, I don't know, man. She has a way of just being both terrified and terrifying.
Yeah.
And scene where suddenly she's on the ceiling and I'm like, what is going on? Like, I had no idea really why anything was happening, but just the vibe of that movie is just, I need a better word than creepy, but it's spine tinglingly terrifying to me.
Yeah, it
And
had
it
some
wigs me
spots
out.
in
It
it.
completely wigs me out.
It definitely like takes turns that you don't see coming,
Yeah.
right? Where you're like, oh, it's the family and blah blah blah, and it takes like weird turns, and you're like, okay, this is just creepy.
Yeah. Like,
And yeah, Tony Collette just brilliant in that movie, absolutely brilliant in that movie.
yeah.
But man, yeah, it had like moments I was just like, I don't know that I want to finish watching
I
this.
know. Oh, I definitely I'm pretty sure I had some moments where I'm like, I'm just gonna look at my phone for a little bit while this is happening.
Right? Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. Um, that's a good one. I hadn't thought about that one since like Rachel and I watched it, but yeah, it's and probably with good reason. I just pushed it out of my mind to
Yeah,
not
yeah.
have to.
So you're welcome for putting that right
Yeah,
back
thanks,
in
Mike.
the
Um, when we talk about like scary movies, I like to think of ones that have brought some originality to the screen, right?
sure.
So when you think about classic stuff, you've got the scary guys like Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, who's classically attached to Halloween forever, and
Yeah.
they just released Halloween Ends, Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Leatherface. So you've got that, right? That side of things, which is very formulaic. Like you're gonna put some
Right.
really Saw falls into that. While Saw had some originality to how it was done, it was still part of that formula of you had um Jigsaw, right? Was kind of the
Yeah.
big bad behind that.
And I have no interest in those like torture horror movies. Just
That's
none,
always
zero.
good. Um,
It's just
but
not my thing.
the there's so very few, like truly like standout original concepts that you see. And there have been a couple, and I'm going to bring up two movies because both of them brilliant in their own way. One, Jordan Peele's Get Out,
Oh gosh. Yes. Yes.
horrifying.
Right.
Like it just the like psychological,
Yes. For sure.
physical, like deceit, level of deceit and trickery that happens and why, and really talks to like a level of like racism that is like
Right. Absolutely.
absolutely like, while it seems unrealistic, right? If you go back in history, like people, that viewpoint of they're here for sport,
Yeah. Right.
right? It exists, and
For
so
sure does. Yeah. No, I'm really glad you brought that one up because that is terrific. And um what was his second one? Us. I
yeah,
think
Us.
Us is in some
Oh,
ways creepier,
oh God.
but I think Get Out is better. I thought
I
Get
think
Out
Get
was a
Out was
better
better.
movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Get Out was better. Us, super creepy.
Yes.
With the idea that there's like people that are our doppelgangers
Right.
living underground,
Yeah.
waiting for an opportunity to come in and take like their rightful
Right.
spot in
That
your life.
that that terrible like cheesy 80s movie Chud, Cannibalistic Humanoid Underground Dwellers, was a documentary.
Right. Um, and now he's got, and I haven't watched Nope yet. I want to see that one. I hear it's really good. Um,
I
but
hear
the
I hear
other
less
one,
good.
really,
Yeah. But
that's unfortunate.
yeah.
The other one that I thought was so far out of like anything we were used to, The Quiet Place,
Mm, right. Yeah.
right? No sound. I remember watching it in the movie theater, and it's literally like this dead quiet movie. There's no like really verbal communication that's happening. Everything's at a whisper. And I remember like getting so into the idea that they had to be quiet, that you
Yeah.
couldn't make a sound, that as I'm eating a peanut M&M, I'm
Yeah,
like,
I'm like,
this is the loudest noise right now in the entire movie
right,
theater. Like
right.
everybody in here is just deadly quiet, engrossed in this movie, in which the amount of talking is so minimal.
Yeah.
Um,
And for
and
the movie itself, when you add a child and then
yeah,
eventually a baby,
yep,
you have no chance of being quiet.
yes, right. And it's just like, man, the second one, not as good as the first, right? But that first one, watching it in the theater, I'll never forget watching it in the theater. Like people are afraid to eat their popcorn, they're afraid to
Yeah.
eat their candy, like they don't want to make any noise. And when you've had a movie like that, like an experience where you've got the audience on the edge of their seat, not wanting to make a sound, right? Unlike my dog that just started barking. Um,
Yeah.
it's man, brilliant.
You've made a great movie
Absolutely.
when that
Yeah,
happens.
you've
Yeah,
made a
I think
great
so.
movie.
Yeah.
Um, and so before we sign off, because I have to bring this one up, because out of all the movies I saw in high school, this one scared the crap out of myself and my friends more than anything else, and that was Hell
Okay.
Hellraiser with Pinhead, specifically the second one, where in the second one, Pinhead in and of itself in the original was like a terrifying idea. Like
It's a
the
right, right,
Cenobites,
right.
essentially like these, ugh, like even now I'm like, the remake, by the way, recently, me,
Okay.
but the original was so good. And the second one, which showed you like this doctor who did everything he could to make contact with the Cenobites, and the creepy line, like, we have such sights to show you. And then they
Mm,
like pull you in and essentially are torturing you for eternity,
yeah.
right? Because that's how they view pleasure. And they take this doctor and he becomes a Cenobite. And they showed that all the way through. And
Oof.
my friends and I were just,
Yeah.
yeah, we started watching it. It was daylight out. When the moon did, it was dark, and we hadn't turned any lights on before the movie started.
Right.
And we all just were like, who's getting up to turn on a light? Let's all just go together. We'll all just go together, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Well,
Right.
like it'll
Yeah.
be fine. But
Yeah.
yeah, that,
There is something about
again,
horror movies with those sort of like communal experiences
yeah,
that both enhance the experience, but also like somehow make it even scarier.
yes. Um, so before we sign off, before
Yeah.
we call it good on this episode, out of all of the horror movies that you've seen, what horror movie, image, character, what have you, has had the biggest impact on irrational fears in your life?
Oh, that's simple. Jaws.
Same.
That is,
Exact same.
it's absolutely Jaws.
100%,
No,
right?
no joke. We would go. I was a kid. We would be on vacation. I would be like in some hotel swimming pool, convinced that Jaws is coming out of the drain in the bottom of that pool.
Same. 100% the same. Like, I remember just catching glimpses of Jaws accidentally as a kid
Yeah.
when somebody was watching it, and just be like, "Oh my god." And then for whatever reason, like, my parents thought it was okay for me to go and have a sleepover at a friend's house where they were watching, like, Jaws movies,
Oh, yeah.
and the idea that this giant shark, I mean, unrealistically large, although great whites, they
Can
get
be, they
pretty
get really
darn
big.
big,
Right, right. You
right?
see those even today. You see those videos of divers interacting with great whites, and I'm like, what the bleep is wrong with you? What are you doing?
Right?
Like, get the hell away
Yeah,
from
yeah.
that thing.
They're,
Even
like,
though,
in the cage or they're
yeah,
free swimming with
right.
them.
Oh, the free
Like,
swimming? Like, what are you doing?
yeah, I'm like, they're, like, petting it on the nose. I'm like,
Yes, right. Yeah. Oh no,
what are
I have.
you doing? Now, I
I'm.
mean, there's so much evidence, right, around the idea that, like, to sharks, we are not a meal. Like,
I.
we're not,
No,
we
I
don't
know,
taste
but
good.
yeah,
We're
your
not
point was, what's
attractive.
the irrational fear? And this is
Right.
the
But
epitome of an irrational fear.
yeah, 100% irrational fear. Like, not something's coming out of the woods, not something's coming out of
Yeah.
the closet. It is, I'm going to step foot in this lake, and somehow there's going to be a shark in the lake
Uh-huh.
that is going to come up and
Yep.
grab my foot, pull me under, and that's it. That's all she wrote. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No joke.
And I'm not going to lie. When I lived in California, I got constant invites to go and learn how to surf. And I was like,
Nope.
no, nope. I don't need to learn how to surf. I'm okay.
I
Like I
like
did
my limbs
paddleboarding.
where they are.
Yeah. Yeah. I got nervous paddleboarding in the ocean a couple times where I was like, ah. But yeah, there was no
Yeah.
way I was surfing. I was like, you got to
Right.
paddle out. Your little arms and legs are off the
Yeah.
edge of
Yeah.
the
You look too much
board.
like a seal or whatever, sea
Yeah.
lion, whatever. And
Yeah.
yeah, no,
So,
that one, and it's bananas how long that is. I mean, it's lasted my entire life.
oh, same. Yeah. Absolutely
I
100% the
absolutely know
same.
better, and yet.
Yeah. Fuck Jaws. Like,
Right.
it's,
Right. For sure. Oh man. Yeah, I can't top that. Like
yeah.
are it's not a movie, but I'm currently making my way through The Haunting of Bly Manor
Oh, yeah. I've seen that.
on Netflix. It
Yep.
is so good.
Yeah. It's really good. It's a good series.
Yeah. And
There's
the one
one that,
before it, The Haunting of Hill House, House
yeah.
Hill, whatever it was,
Yeah.
also really creepy and really good.
Yeah. Yeah. They did a good job. They did a
I
good
think
job on those.
I think Bly is less creepy, although it still is, but
Right.
man, what a great study of trauma and
Hmm.
grief and um
Yeah.
and I wonder if that's what horror movies are supposed to do. I mean, some of them are just flat out for fun, like you said,
Right.
like let's just have fun and be scared because sometimes it's fun to be scared. But
Yeah. Of course it
but
is.
but sometimes I also appreciate a horror movie that is exploring something. Like you said with Get Out. Like Get Out is
Yep.
absolutely exploring the ideas uh of racism and enslavement and
Hmm.
performative allyship, I think, in some ways, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
but also is really, really scary. Like
Hmm.
those have the impact. Or sometimes it's just a giant mechanical shark that will haunt you forever.
Fucking Jaws. And it got bigger as the series went on.
Yeah.
Like it went from like, okay, kind of realistic. I mean, yeah, it chewed up a ship, a boat,
Yeah.
right? We're gonna need a bigger boat.
Right.
Um, but then in 2, it got a little bit bigger. In 3, it was enormous. I
Yeah.
mean, in 4, it became intelligent and hunted down the family. Like, okay, it got ridiculous,
Yes, of
right? It
course.
got ridiculous. But you go back and you watch that first one, and you're like, yeah, okay. I don't need to get in the water.
Right, for sure.
And what it taught us was take the kid with floaties on his arms and push him behind you as you're making your way to the shore.
It's maybe not the most winsome approach, but
He wasn't going to make it anyway.
right. Also, one of my favorite little memes now is in Jaws 2, the same dude is still the mayor. Local elections matter, folks. Go vote in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, very true. Very true. And let's just say this. There are moments that we have to make a leap of faith that this would be a human behavior that would be totally normal. Like after all the events of Jaws, I'm still getting on a boat in the ocean
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
because a rational person who has rational fears of traumatic incidents are going to go, no,
I don't need to
I'm
do that
not getting
anymore.
in a little dinghy to go around the cove. I am not getting in a boat, right? That is not happening. I am out of here.
Yeah.
I am going to Wisconsin.
That movie has taught me that the irrational fear that there are sharks in Wisconsin too.
Yeah, that's true. All right, fair enough. Somewhere landlocked where there is nothing
Yeah.
at the top
Right.
of a
South
mountain,
Dakota.
right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, South Dakota somewhere. All right.
Oh, well, friends, thanks for journeying with us. Obviously, there's dozens and dozens and
Who
dozens of
did we
scary movies
miss?
that we haven't
What
talked
did
about.
we miss? Like,
Yeah.
what's your favorite
Right.
scary movie series?
Yeah.
Have you seen Halloween Ends? What did you think? You know, Jamie Lee Curtis is iconic. Man, we didn't even talk about Children of the Corn, the original
No, we
Children
didn't
of
talk
the
about
Corn,
Shining.
The Shining, so much stuff. We could have
Right.
gone on and on and on forever.
Yeah.
So yeah, what did we miss? What do you like?
Let us know. Instagram, Twitter, email, all the things. We'd love
All
to
the
connect
things.
with you.
All the things.
We enjoy that, as you know.
Yep.
So thanks. Thanks for being with us for episode, whichever one this is.
49?
49?
Almost 50.
Sounds about right. 49 or 50?
I don't know.
Might be
Somewhere
50.
around.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We're not
It is
keeping
what it
track,
is.
so why should you? It shouldn't
Yeah,
matter.
exactly. Just thanks for following along.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We love having you along for this journey.
Yeah.
All right, friends. Enjoy the Halloween time. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, let us know what your favorite scary movies are. Until next time, true believers. Bye.
Bye, guys.